Happy Thursday to everyone. This is Lindell from Festival of Java, and I wanted to start a video here on what was one of my favorite things that I did as a working musician, and that was recording in the studio. The studio is the playground for musicians, largely because there's toys that you don't have at home, you can't actually afford, but you can go and play with, of course, for a price. So, just to kind of give you an idea, I created an album about 8 years ago, and with the equipment I purchased and the time and the processing, I spent just under $11,000, and that's crazy cheap for what it requires to put together a radio arable sound. So wanted to kind of break down the process. This will probably be like a 4 or 5 part video. So to give you an overview, typical process for a professional recording album starts with the writing. Sometimes that's done away from the studio, sometimes that's done in the studio if you can afford to do that. Then there's the actual recording process, the mixing. Sometimes the mixing is done by the same guy that recorded it. Sometimes it's mixed, at a completely different location, different room, different equipment. Then there's the mastering. Then it's ready to, send out to the public. And it can cost a lot of money on each one of those steps, depending on what kind of quality sound you want to put out there. So here's how the process went for me. I had a small project home studio, and with microphones and amplifiers and guitars and basses and everything I needed to record, get started on the process. I didn't play drums, so I had bass guitar, some samples of everything else, keyboards, organs, drums, and I used the computer to sequence those things so that it sounded like an actual player played them. So I had to learn how, drums are put together, and my first pass of the drums, it sounded like a drum machine, even though it was actual recorded drums. Because just like a conversation, a drummer has little inconsistencies in the way that they play, and anything that sounds too perfect sounds mechanical. So I had to learn how to kind of not present it so perfect so it didn't sound like a machine was playing it. So yeah, I took several go-rounds actually. Then from checking my notes, from my studio I went to a bigger studio, and that's where most of the work got done. Garland Recording Studios engineer was Tom Jordan. We'll just call him TJ for today. I appreciate Tom because he helped me quite a bit in putting that album together. And then from there, he mixed it for me for the most part, and it went off to the mastering overseas in England. And so I'll break down each one of those processes as we go, trying to keep each video kind of short. But it started at home, so I played all the parts, and then I'd create tracks to put on a disc, take the disc to the studio, and that's where all the magic started. And you may ask, why didn't I just do everything at home and skip the process and not spend the money? It came down to several things, but the most important thing was an item called a Neumann U87. It is a very expensive vocal microphone that is industry standard. The mic by itself is right around $2,500. To make the mic work, you need a preamp that's can be anywhere from $800 to $2,000. So just to get the voice right, you're talking about $5,000. And there's a lot more that goes with it. And I did not want to spend that kind of money. Then on top of that, the microphone is so sensitive. It picks up what's happening next door, down the street, across the street, in the air. So you have to build a soundproof room, and usually you have to build a room within a room so the outside room keeps noise out, and the inside room is super, super quiet because it picks up everything. So just that alone is outside the scope of what I can do in my house. So as we go along, we'll discuss all the little details and things that why you want to use a big studio if you want the big quality sound. So for now, that gets us started, and we'll break here, and until next time.